You have to hit the green button. See, even I knew that. All righty. Here we are. Oof. I need to move this forward or back. There, back. Back a little bit. Oh, okay, that's good. Maybe
Nice.
there. Hi, you guys. So thank you everybody for coming, and especially my cousin Mel.
Hi,
Hi.
these are beautiful.
Thank
Aren't they?
you. So originally, what I wanted to do is make a project using the silk ribbon that was different from embroidery or just tying a bow with it or whatever. And so I started by making the weaving the ribbon, which I had done in the past, like 20 years ago or whatever. And then it just was a lot of work. So just to turn it into this little thing. And so in the middle of the night, one day, after Claire and I had a discussion, and she said, "Oh, I don't really want to do those." And so I had this idea to turn them into little art pieces. So that's what we did. And they are sturdy. They're made with railroad board in between layers, cardstock, and we designed graphics for the fronts, so, and the layered piece. So they're all originally designed pieces, and if you get a kit, those pieces come in the kit ready. They're all ready to assemble, and it's included in A7 envelope. So you can mail it. This is an A7, but I wouldn't put it through the mail in an envelope like this. I'd put it in a flyer or something, or no, a mailer of some kind, like a bubble
Got
mail.
it.
And also you can add your own little label to it, or you can add a quote. You know, you can either handwrite a quote or print a quote and put it on, and then address it to whoever you're sending it to. So it's a really sweet little gift, and it just sits anywhere in a person's life, and it doesn't take up a lot of room. So there are 3 different heart shapes for making the hearts, the cards. Yeah, and so of course I've lost one of them. Found it. So it's these 3 shapes. So this one, the elongated heart. Let's see, get them in a little bit closer. So those are included in the pattern, and whatever ribbon, whatever kit you choose, there'll be enough ribbon to do any one of those hearts. I'd say this one takes a little bit more ribbon than the others. I can get them done with 5 yards of ribbon, but we're adding extra ribbon just to be sure about it. And then the other interesting thing is that they all have different quantities of colors. So this one uses 5 shades of ribbon, and this one uses 4 shades of ribbon, and this one uses 8 shades of ribbon. So that is the interesting part. And another thing that we've noticed is if you weave the bottom with 2 colors and then weave the top with 2 or 3 other colors, yet I don't know, it seems like I don't know. I'm really not sure about it. Claire is convinced that the 4 colors are really successful and simple to do. So these 3 utilize 4 shades. So all that to say, you can really approach them any way you want as far as the colors are concerned. So I'm going to move these all out of the way. I'm going to demo on this piece right here. So you can hear that they are substantial and they feel good in your hands. So let's get started. The first thing you will need is a piece of fabric, and I have to say that this one is a little tiny bit too small, but I make it work, you know. So first thing is we trace the heart shape onto the fabric, and then I like to draw a diagonal through the heart. So this is basically a 45-degree angle, and that just gives me a starting point for where I start the ribbon. So if on a board like this is a 45-degree angle right here. So let's say I need to draw the other part of that angle. So I just put my ruler up and make a mark on the fabric where it's parallel to the line I drew, and then draw through. So now we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do now is I want to show you the tools that we're going to use. To weave the heart, we're going to start with two kinds of tape. 1/2-inch wide double-sided tape, and we use 3/4 inch with transparent tape, but you can use something narrower if you want. And I'd like to tape the fabric to the work surface, and I'm going to need a scissors. So I took off a small piece of the double-sided tape, and I'm going to cut it in half. So it's about 1/4 inch wide, and I'm going to put the tape on the outside edge of the seam. Oh, I think I forgot to tell you. Yes, I did. After you draw the crisscross where you'll weave the ribbon, you want to draw a 3/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, and you just eyeball that. It does not have to be perfect, but it helps to make the process easier if you have that whole 3/4 inch. So I'm going to put another piece of tape right there. And sometimes the fabric, if the tape extends off the fabric, I just put a little piece of tape underneath it. All right, we're ready to start now. So these are the ribbons that I'm going to use for this heart. So I have 3 kind of yellowish shades and 2 that are lavender shades. They're 1 yard each. I decided that I made 3 of them when we had a power outage. And so those were made without putting the ribbon at all, or the fabric. So, so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I pressed it when the power came back on, which was about 8 hours later. Then I decided I want to try the spray starch on the ribbon and see if it does anything. And so I liked the process of having the spray starch added to the ribbon, but Claire doesn't think it makes that much difference whatsoever. So it's up to you guys, you know. She's really OCD, so I'm surprised she doesn't want to spray start a ribbon. Anyway, we're going to weave the bottom of the heart shape with the 2 lavender shades. This is actually Vintage Pansy, and this is actually Cedar Rose. So you can see there's so many color combinations that you can go with. So you just lay the ribbon onto the double-sided tape and cut it off. So try not to waste. I'm a big one for not wasting. So then we go right next to that with our second color and extend it and trim it off. And because I'm just going two colors on this for the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and go right next to it with that same shade. just have to have a light hand and be in a good mood, feel calm. So there we go again. And I'm wasting a little bit up there, so I would be more careful than that if I were a person like you. But I'm nervous. Did you know I get nervous about this stuff? All right, so we have 5 here, right? So now I'm going to take my transparent tape and cut a little piece and put it over those bits of ribbon that I've already laid in place. What, Claire? The ends, over the ends, yes. So here's the double-sided tape is below that. And I do that because the double-sided tape becomes annoying and you stick to it. And then you want to just go, ugh, and give up. So don't do that. So we would just continue going on, laying down the ribbon, putting down the double-sided tape until the whole space was covered. So I'm going to bring over my next piece. What? The ribbons are not overlapping. They are side by side. So you do not want any overlapping. Okay, so here is the piece that's all done with the bottom layer. So you can still see the tracing underneath. So if I put the heart back in place, that you can see that I'm not going, here I cut it short a little bit on purpose, because we don't want to waste if possible. So you only need to do as much as you need to do. So this is the other side heart, and then this is this sized heart. So they all kind of fit, and it all depends on the kind of angle that you create in the first place. So if this is a 45-degree angle on this piece, and it creates this kind of a weave, but you can create a much like this was a 60-degree angle. So it's it all is up to you. Kind of anything works. All right, so we're going to weave, and the weaving process involves using a bodkin. Yes, someone has asked, would it help to trace the heart again? Yeah, it would, absolutely, but you probably can't see it, but I can still see my tracing underneath that. So, and maybe you have one of the disappearing inks, ink pens, that would be okay to trace it with too. I always like to use a pencil that, I mean, that would work. Definitely. And actually, when I first started doing them again, I did trace them. But then we got the whole process down and decided we didn't need them after all. Need that after all. So the weaving process involves using a bodkin. So this is a bodkin, and this is one of my favorite tools I have in my workroom. And Claire and I use this every day, multiple times a day. It's just a long, blunt needle with a big eye. This is another bodkin, and it has a ball at the end and a smaller eye, but the same. So this one works as well, and but I prefer to use this one. You could also use like a blunt needle that's used for hand sewing when you're doing knitting, like when you're hand sewing parts together, that would work as well. So now we're going to start weaving. Okay, so I've taped it top and bottom again. And oh, I got to do my double-sided tape. So get the tape. It's just a small piece of tape, and put it at the outer edge of the seam allowance. See, there's a seam allowance right there. and up here as well. And I'm going off the board a little bit. So I'm going to put a little piece of tape underneath there so that it doesn't, so that the tape doesn't cause the fabric to stick to the work table worse than it already does. All right, which I didn't mean that at all. Okay, so now we're going to use the yellow shades to weave. So you take my bodkin and thread the ribbon. Don't cut anything to size yet. You'll cut when you're through weaving. So just the whole over and under process. The first one is kind of wibbly wobbly. So just want to make sure that you get it all. And don't skip. So just check it all. And then pull that through. And then adhere to the tape on that side and then pull it nice and snug, but not so it puckers a lot, and trim. So then you'll take your next shade, and I'm happen to be using little scrap pieces right now, but you would be starting with a long piece. And now we're going to do the opposite of over, under. Over, under, over, under. Then check it. So you see, do you see that right there? I missed that one. So there we go. I think that's right. Then, oh shoot. You lay down the first layer. So someone has a question, when you lay down the first layer, does it need to be odd or even count of ribbon? It doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter. So you see how my ribbon fell out, and that's okay. Just put it back in and then pull through. And then you line that one up right next to the other one. Yep. And sometimes when I feel that they're not behaving well enough or whatever, for whatever reason, I'll just go ahead and tape them down like that. And then I know they won't loosen up on me. All right, and then we just continue in that same manner. So I'll do one more for you, okay? So thread it. And it's going to be under, over. And I always check. So it's already starting to make more sense as far as a pattern is concerned. And oh, I see I made a mess right there. I did. Oh boy. You won't make the mess, but I did because I'm kind of, I'm trying. I'm just trying. So I screwed up right here. So I missed that little guy right there. So just be careful about that. And really, it's no big deal. Nothing is sewn in place. So you can easily just redo it. Place it and trim it. And then just keep going until the whole space is woven and your heart will fit on it. So let's move this piece off and bring over the next one. So this is the finished piece. So I was weaving that way, and now I can turn it this way. And if I lay my heart onto here, onto the woven piece, you can see that I have just enough everywhere, and that's all you need is just enough. And now at this point, I'm going to trace all the way around because we have to do some sewing now. So I'm just going to take my pattern And using a pencil, I'm going to trace all the way around. You want to go kind of light, but you want to be able to make sure that you can see it. So my pencil line is light, but I can see the line. So okay. Can you see the pencil line, guys? That's right there. So, and then the other thing I wanted to say is, if you start a pattern like I did, goldenrod, pearl, rosa, prima, sand, goldenrod, pearl, rosa, prima, sand. So I repeated that pattern. And if you just repeat the pattern, you don't have to think much. So, which is a good thing. So once this is done, now we have to go to the sewing machine. So this is the machine sewn version. And I have these really beautiful variegated threads. So I do a machine zigzag stitch. And the bobbin can be different than the top. And I use the width of the zigzag is 1 and the length is 1.5. So it's a really small zigzag stitch, and it's easy on the ribbon, and it doesn't damage the ribbon. So you can do a machine stitch like that, or if you don't want to pull out your sewing machine, you can do a hand embroidered outline stitch or the back stitch, just as long as you can make sure that all the little ribbons are kind of secure in place, because that's what they need to have done. So this one you can see is a slight variation in color, and I think the only difference between these two is, well, one of the purples is stronger, and then we also used a marigold in here. So they're just, the ribbons are just beautiful together. So now what we do is take a scissors, and we're going to cut off the excess and cut so that we can cut off the tape. After it's been sewn, yes. So I'm demonstrating on the one that I had not sewn yet. So that could be a little confusing. So let's say we have this piece here, right? And I've cut it off. It's been sewn. The next thing we want to do is to remove this excess fabric. So I like to use an embroidery scissor to do that, and it's not super sharp. You know how sometimes your scissors can get a little tiny bit dull? Well, I kind of prefer that for this particular process. And you just hold back the ribbon and trim close to the underside. And you just go a little bit at a time. Sometimes there's a little bit of tape still, and I just kind of like ease it off. And then continue to go all the way around very carefully. As long as you just pay attention to what's happening on the top and the bottom, you're not going to trim off any of the ribbons. And Claire and I can get the weaving done and the trimming and all that jazz in about 45 minutes. So it really is a kind of a quick project. So here's what the back looks like. Now we're going to give it a shaggy haircut. So I do that by cutting 1 and then 2. Now these are really sharp scissors, and I love them. A friend gave them to me, and they are absolutely perfect for this job. So I'm cutting 1 and then 2, and 1 and then 2 and 1. And then you have to like, okay, well, what do I do about this guy here? So I'm just going to trim him off a little bit. Like if you've ever trimmed your own hair, it's exactly what we're doing. And now I turned it over. And then because I want to do this side. 1, 2. And it just makes it have a little bit of a shaggy look to it. And you just continue all the way around until you have this kind of a look completed. So easy, huh? So far, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing good. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is maybe you don't like the shaggy haircut. Maybe you just want yours to be trimmed flush. So this is what that one would look like. Either way, whatever you like. I like the shaggy haircut, but we wanted to see what would happen. All right, so this piece is now ready for our card, or assembling our card. But one more thing you're going to need before we get going is a little piece of batting, and the batting has to be a little bit smaller than the heart. So in your kit, there'll be a pattern for the batting heart. So you just and the piece of batting. So just cut that out, and we'll be gluing that in place in a bit. So now I'm going to clear my work surface because it's time to glue. Woohoo! Glue time. It's our favorite, right, everybody? All right, here's my glue surface. So I have a rag to keep my hands clean. I'm going to put that off to the surface over there. And then this is just a disposable tray, and this is a disposable 3-inch paint roller. You get these at the hardware store. You don't want a foam roller. This is the cloth covered roller, and you can get refills for it. But if you rinse this out after you're through with your project, then it will last you for years and years and years and years and years. I use Aleene's original formula tacky glue for this process because it's just the perfect glue. So have that always handy and keep it upside down in a cup. Then we don't have to deal with gravity. So let's talk about the parts that we need for the card. All right. The back piece, which measures 5 by 7, has a very back and a front to it and a sandwich. So the sandwich piece is cut from railroad board, and it is a scant 1/16 of an inch smaller all the way around than the other 2 pieces. So that's the back part. The front part has the cardstock as well. And the reason why we did that is so, let me see if I can find one where you can really see. Like this one. You can see that there's a little tiny edge right there of purple. And it's just a sweet little accent, and it just gives a little bit of dimension. It also gives sturdiness and strength. So that's why we have these extra pieces. So we have the cardstock, and this is Paper Source cardstock for the most part that we're using. So it's extra thick. And then we have the railroad board and the front piece. So this again is a scant 1/16 of an inch smaller all the way around than the other 2 pieces. So we're going to begin by getting the back ready to go. So take your glue roller and get it coated with glue, but not ooey gooey. You don't want it to be ooey gooey. And then this is the railroad board. You're going to put the glue onto the railroad board and roll the whole piece And then you can pick it up like that. So then we're going to take, this is our back cardstock piece. Keep your hands clean and start on the edge. So if you start on the edge and you just come in a little tiny bit, you can get the piece centered on there. It's really close, purposely close. All right, so then you turn it over. Smooth your hands all the way around it so that all edges are adhering nicely all the way around. Okay, now we're going to use this piece and we're going to put the glue on here. And this is where I glued before, so you want to stay out of the glue. So I'll get my roller ready again. And have my fingers down at the corners because I want to go as far as I can in one swoop. And then I'm going to move my finger, just do a little tap. So now I really need to flip this over in order to show you properly. And we're going to do the same thing. We are now aligning with the underneath. And you have a little bit of time that you can move things around before it's too late. And then from the back, we do the smoothing. I call this process embossing. You don't see the embossing here, but you want to make sure that all edges are adhered beautifully together. And I've done this a lot of times, and I would have expected maybe to get a finger cut or something, but from the paper, but I've not. So yay, there's that. Okay, so we will then do the exact same thing with the front piece. The glue goes on the railroad board, then it gets positioned and then glued together and so on. But I have one that's all ready to go. So these are our two pieces. And this is now going to go right here. But the glue needs to go onto the smaller piece. So I'm going to get my rule. And it's the same process. Hold the piece down, glue. Get a nice thorough coating, but nothing ooey gooey. Your finger, get it everywhere, lift it up. All right, so now we're going to take, and I do the same thing, position on the side. And I don't know if, because I'm right-handed, is if that's why I'm doing it that way, but I can judge where it needs to be. And you have a little bit of time to move it around. And once it's in the right place, do the work. So that means more embossing again, all the way around. And from the front as well. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now, we need to get this little bit of batting onto the heart. So I'm just going to take a little bit of glue, not a lot, just a tiny bit, and position the batting onto the heart. So that's patted and ready to go. Looks nice. And now we need to do some measurements, because we want the heart to be, let's take a look at this. If I position the heart here, then on either side, I've got, I would say about 7/8 of an inch in order for it to be equidistant which is my favorite word, right, Claire? Equidistant. So I'm going to come down 7/8 of an inch and put a little mark here. And that's where the top of the heart will rest. Now, this measures 2 3/4 of an inch, and I need to find a center mark. So I'm going to put a dot at 2 3/8 of an inch, because that's the center, and a little bit lower down, 2 3/8 of an inch. So that mark is right there. And I'm just coming down a little bit, and we said it was 2 3/4, right? So I'm just going to go down to 2 1/2. Draw a line. That's where my heart is going to live. So I just test it. And then when you're ready to glue, none of those marks are going to show, but your heart is in the right place. See what I did there? Your heart is in the right place. Oh, so that's a good one. That was a good one. Totally unexpected. All right. So now we're going to put a little bit of glue onto the underside of the heart. Now, you might prefer actually to use a toothpick to do this. And, you know, really, maybe I should too. I mean, come on. And don't you know, I have a toothpick handy. So we can take the toothpick and just start drawing a little line of glue all the way around. And go all the way around again. You want to make sure you get it everywhere. But don't extend past the stitching if you can. So even if even if the batting heart needed to be trimmed down so that it's not extending too much, you should do that. That's my advice for the day. You should do that. All right, so we go. Stay out of the glue and place it. Check your marks, check your sides, check your center. And once it's in place, put it where it belongs. And just tap around the edges. And it's done. That was easy. So somewhere I have a quote here that I hand wrote, but I don't know it. So it's gone. Anyways, like I said before, here's the two versions of this one. So this is the yellow version, and this is where we changed it up a little bit. So put your own label on the back, autograph it, put a quote on, whatever you want. Find a quote. I have a friend who sends me beautiful quotes almost every day, and they're worth keeping. So, oh, look, I found it. Look, I found it. It says, I close my eyes to old ends and open my heart to new beginnings. That's by Nick Fredrickson. That's the process. Yeah. Got any questions? You can talk. Talk to me. Talk to me. Oh, one last thing. People, make sure you put your finished piece under your copy of the history of art. Any